Hello, welcome back to Firehouse Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Rizia. So last time out, we took a trip over to Sordon to visit with Gus and President Alfonso, and wound up signing a trade bond deal, which will, I don't know, hopefully get us some more money here in the not-so-distant future. I don't know, we'll see what happens. So yeah, it's end of the churn here, so let's go ahead and move on. So I didn't sign any decrees or anything because, I mean, I don't have any budget right now, so that's not really possible. So yeah, let's just move on here. Meditations. Alright, let's see here. So at least one report here from the Republic of Morela. Looks like it's the only report. Prime Minister Sultana calls emergency MITS board meeting. Following up on the recent AN discussion about the Meftim International Trade Zone, Morelan Prime Minister Alma Sultana has pushed forward the date of the next stakeholder meeting between Morela Rizia, Lesbia, and Volksland. We will be expected to present our opinion regarding the nationalization of the MITS and its possible alternatives. Cool. Let's see, yeah, that looks like everything. So let's head back up here to Portrazon. Alright, bilateral agreement discussions with Valen. Nice. Cool, yeah, we got a nice chunk of stuff up here, so... You know what? Actually, hold up, before we do that, let's go and sell some energy here first so we have a bigger budget. Just in case anything happens. Let's see here, where is that? Trade... Okay. Let's see, how much is a large? It's gonna be all of my energy, but plus 3 budget. Plus minus 3 authority, so I might not want to do that yet. Plus 1 energy, minus 2 budget. What? Oh, this is a purchase. Oops. Okay, so I can do the smaller one without any... And do a smaller 2 without any hits. Alright. You know, I think I'm gonna wait on that. Let's just wait. Let's head back here to Portrazon for this discussion with Valen. Victor Smolak, president of Valen, had finally agreed to meet with me after several months of silence. Just ahead of my meeting with him, I convened with my council for a briefing. Thank you all for joining us here. He looked around the table at Vina, Lorenzo, Lucida, Elena, and Sal. Sal. The priesty guy. Right, never mind. Lorenzo, as you have the latest information from Valen's full ministry, would you like to begin? Or what could His Majesty expect today? Lorenzo stood up, and he paced back and forth energetically as he spoke. We are in uncharted territory, Your Grace. President Smolak's invocation for the threat mitigation protocol has been challenged, but the AN failed to meet a consensus. Essentially, he is in a position to hold Zeal hostage until his demands are met. And indeed, the new handover plan its minister is now proposing has a 3-year timeline attached to it. Three years? That can't be standard procedure, can it? As I said, this is an unprecedented situation. I believe the AN is satisfied that President Smolak has set a new deadline at all. And what makes us think that this one will be met when the last one was not? Anger danced in Lucida's eyes. She gestured the rest of the table. Now this is our territory. Why are we not setting the agenda? I'm surprised the international community is not challenging an oppressive man like President Smolak. The others looked at her in mild surprise. What of the people living in Zeal? Has anyone asked them how they feel about an extra 3 years of basic rule? My treasurer smiled wistfully. But we may still have the opportunity to set the agenda. Any agreement Valen proposes is bound to have an economic aspect. And considering the dire straits Valen is in with the rest of the world, President Smolak might be about to offer us the deal of our lives. Correct as usual, yeah. Lorenzo opened his notebook. I will remind you all that Valen is under partial sanctions by most of the West. The only commodity they've been trading freely is oil. The presence of the Ariana Taurus Association seal has helped sway public sentiment to our side. Our investigators are cooperating with Valiant intelligence, which will make it more difficult for President Smolak to claim we are uninterested in the region's security. Even so, we should handle this meeting with delicacy. Any aggression on our part can be used against us. Delicacy is one thing, submission's another. We must be careful, we promise. Very true, Your Majesty. At some point it may become necessary to call Valiant's bluff. I know this much, Your Grace. Unless concessions are made, it will take years, if not decades, to get Seal back. Any questions thus far, Your Majesty? I guess let's just go down the list of questions here. Duchess Cesaro, what's the status of our foreign investigation?
Thank you, Your Majesty. A few fingerprints were found near the bomb site, but they don't match any of the ones we have on file for Sue Omina members. Nor were they recognized by Valen's database.
But that's good for us. It means Sue Omina can be ruled out.
Not entirely. We don't have files for every single member.
Yes, there's like the 50s. They don't exactly have computer databases to run everything through. But, Miss Verna, which resources are we able to bargain with?
Good question, Your Majesty. Gold is always an option, especially since we raised our stake in RRG. The regulations have also dented our small arms industry, but we can offer to tool rifles. And despite our deal with the swords, we have a small wine surplus we can sell at trade. We didn't drink an oil in Carlos, it only felt like we did.
Vina grimaced at the reminder, while the other counselors chuckled.
If we can manage to free up the natural gas in the Aureus field in time, that would be a triple asset. But a country as rich in oil as Valia won't need much of it. They may flat out ask us to buy their goods instead of trade, but we should be careful with our budget and anyway, I'd rather not pay Valia what amounts to ransom money.
That is a very good point. But, Grand Wise Man Ignatius, do you think the religious affairs in Valen can have an impact on negotiations?
It may well, Your Majesty.
Sel frowned pensively.
Our neighbor has long followed the path of austerity, and I do not fault them for it. But in the hands of the current regime, that religion has become a culture with which to persecute Valen's Golconist minority. The Blues, you mean?
I think the correct term is Blutish people?
Excuse me, Majesty, I had no idea you were sensitive about such language. Whatever the name, Valen's president has been stoking the flames of hate against his Blutish citizens. He will ask for our aid, but I believe compassion is called for.
Alright, and Hugo, is there any word from the House of Delegates on this?
They haven't met about it, Your Majesty. The majority consensus was that the timelines of the Zeal handover should take a backseat to protecting Rizian interests. Conceding too much to Valen too quickly will earn you the ire of Barrister Rava and her party. The opposition, meanwhile, is much more amenable to compromise, particularly those party members from Theranos. That makes sense. They've been missing a piece of their province for long enough already. With all due respect, Your Highness, the Saisons lost the right to call Zeal theirs when the former Duke of Visa committed his act of treachery. They cannot seriously expect that it will be reincorporated into Brainus as if nothing happened. And why not? We took Isa from them. How much more punishment does their house need to endure?
Lucina looked askance at her.
I do hope you're not letting emotions cloud your judgment, Your Highness.
For what it's worth, I agree with the princess, and not only because a number of historic Escobar estates are located in Zeal. Well, what fallout can we expect if we don't come to an agreement? Rento looked down.
I highly doubt that a full deal will be reached today, only the beginnings of one. His Majesty's question stands. Do we have a contingency plan?
Well, Duchess, if our negotiations fall through and international pressure is insufficient to force Valen back to the table, then the responsibility will fall on Zeal itself.
Lucina flashed him a skeptical look. Which means what exactly, Mr. Escobel?
If the majority of Rizia's citizens believe the territory should belong to Rizia, the Vesa government cannot simply ignore them, especially if we gather external support.
They can and they will. No state peacefully gives power away.
Do we even have a majority? I thought opinion was divided. President Smolak's announcement has already put many undecided citizens into the pro-Rizian column, and we have avenues to influence them further. The Rizia branch of ATA has already begun coordinating a Rizian-led reunification initiative in the wake of the AN announcement. With enough pressure from both inside and outside Rizia, Vane will have to give the region back, or at the very least hold a referendum.
Rizia doesn't need a referendum, Mr. Escobal. It needs a resistance. It's cut off from the basic mainland. Divert enough funding and weapons to the right groups, we can make an overthrow happen without getting our hands dirty.
My dear Duchess, you and your family really must learn that bloodshed isn't the answer to everything.
You don't learn in bloodshed, telling our people in Zeal to rise against the government without giving them the means to defend themselves. Or, for that matter, sending the message that our all-powerful king is placing stock in the results of the people's vote.
About that one. I see your point, but violence should only be used as a last resort. Otherwise, we risk destroying the territory we're trying to gain.
Yeah, of course, Your Majesty. But if negotiations fail, things could go south quickly. We should be prepared.
Well, I'm as brief as I'm gonna be. Time to go meet President Smolak. Very good, Your Majesty. He's expecting us in the downstairs diplomatic suite.
Good luck, Father. I am crossing my fingers for results.
As am I.
Elena, Hugo, and Vina left the room. Lucida seemed to be intentionally delaying her exit, her eyes locked onto mine. Titus and Lorenzo stood by the door, waiting to escort me to the meeting. Duchess Cesaro, a quick moment of your time. Of course, Your Majesty. With a knowing grin, Lorenzo bowed and motioned for Titus to follow him into the hall. Lucida snapped her attaché case shut and turned to me. What is it, Duchess? She walked towards me hesitantly. Your Majesty, I've been thinking. My advances towards you in college were rather ill-advised. I'm afraid I overstepped the bounds of propriety. You didn't overstep any bounds. I found your candor refreshing, and I still do. She blushed. Thank you. But people talk on the council and beyond. I'd hate for anyone to think your national security decisions were influenced by our personal intimacy. Perhaps it's best to keep this under wraps until my father's well enough to resume his position. A pragmatic, beautiful noblewoman. I should have married you ages ago. She smiled enigmatically. You may still get the chance. In the meantime, here's something for luck. She held out her hand. In it was a small wooden object. It was a chess piece, a queen. It appeared to be made of marble with golden details. I picked it up and took a closer look. There's a pair of crossed swords carved into it, the Azaro sigil. My uncles, the mutineers, ransacked his country house after they killed him. They took the set, but this must have fallen out in the chaos. Let's go with that. The queen, the most valuable piece on the chessboard. She's a versatile attacker and an invaluable defender, all in the service of protecting the king. She took my hand and gave it a quick squeeze. You should at your meeting. We'll debrief later. I look forward to it. I slipped the chess piece into my pocket and stepped out into the hall to rejoin my bodyguard and foreign counselor. May I ask, Your Majesty?
May I ask if there be any doodling going on during this meeting, Mr. Escabel? Lorento's face reddened. He didn't speak another word as Titus escorted us through the winding corridors to the first floor diplomatic suite. It's a nice cheesy callback. I love it. We left Titus standing guard outside the door and walked in. President Smolak was in the sitting room, flipping through a copy of the Royal Herald. He stood up and bowed to each of us.
Your Majesty, Mr. Escabel, it's truly a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is mutual, Mr. President. Thank you for meeting me.
Circumstances have changed since last we met, of course, but I am confident we can come to an understanding.
He set down the newspaper he'd been reading.
You wouldn't believe what they're saying about me in your paper, Your Majesty. Smolak's iron grip on Zeal, enforced by dictatorial command rather than any real respect for international law or the rights of local population, should be seen as a threat to us all.
Let's go with that one. Now, I can't control what the Rizian press says about you, no more than I can control what it says about me.
Your Majesty, I have the suspicion that your media functions much in the same way as mine. Not a word is permitted your government doesn't approve of. You see, you and I are not as different as you might like to believe.
I mean, I don't really think we have that much of a government control on the press, but okay. Let's see here. Let's go with this one. That's true, Mr. President. Both of us only want what's best for our people. I'm sure we'll be able to come to an agreement with that in mind.
Exactly, that's why I'm here today.
I saw relief in Lorento's eyes.
Already beginning to find common ground, I'm optimistic for these negotiations. The meeting room should be ready by now. Shall we proceed?
He led us into the next room over, where a set of blue upholstered armchairs were arranged around a circular table. The three of us had a seat. A palisade came by with water and coffee.
Now that you're here, Mrs. Smolak, can you explain in greater detail why you decided to postpone the Zeal handover?
Smolak took a sip of water. He slowly wiped his mustache.
It is simple, Mr. Escabel. Zeal is now home to several million citizens of Asic origin. Under the terms of the treaty our predecessors signed, they would have the right to stay and work in the region. But the Zeal attack made it clear that those terms will not be respected. Without the protection of my government, I fear further violence will come to those who stay.
I don't understand. I and my kingdom have been nothing but cooperative in the wake of the Zeal incident.
I do not take issue with your response to the incident, Your Majesty. But your partnership with Romberg, despite all of its efforts to destabilize us, is a warning sign to me. I cannot simply hand these people's lives over to the friend of my enemy.
Whatever you believe Rumberg has done or is doing to Valen, Rizia has absolutely no part in it. Lorento nodded.
All we can do is take every available measure to ensure the security of Zeal's Wasic population once the region is back in Rizia's hands.
I think I just hit a weird cross of voices there, but it's alright.
Well, it is comforting to know, Mr. Escabel.
President Smolak smiled just a little too widely.
My ministers and I agree that before Zeals are reintegrated into Rizia, a good faith effort must be made to strengthen the bonds between our countries. We have therefore drafted an addendum to the original treaty, a series of measures meant to renew our old friendship.
Let's go with this one. Sounds a little bit more neutral. I agree that closer cultural and economic ties could benefit both of our nations.
They would indeed. After all, how well can Nuremberg look after you when you're so far away from each other?
Lorenzo pulled a folder out of his briefcase and opened it on the table.
Mr. President, we've received the draft from your ministers, but the terms are extremely vague. You're asking for a trade deal, a bilateral migration agreement, and a counter-terrorism cooperation pact?
Tell me more about this trade deal, President Smolak.
Very gladly, Your Majesty. If there's one fact everyone knows about Valen, it's that we sell oil. Meanwhile, we are worried about the impact the loss of Zia will have on our economy. We will need a way to stabilize our currency. We therefore propose a straightforward exchange of basic oil for Rizian gold, at what I'm sure you'll agree is a very favorable rate. 4 barrels for every ounce, to be exact.
I have no idea. I'm just going to go with that one. That rate isn't favorable at all.
We do have other interested parties, but of course Rizia gets first priority. I've been told that your kingdom is about to come into a large amount of natural gas, but your counselors will tell you about the importance of diversifying one's energy sources.
Let's see here. Your republic isn't known for its stability. How can you guarantee that you'll be a reliable trading partner?
As long as I'm president of Valen, the oil will keep flowing. That much I can promise you. But of course, there are ways Rizia can help Valen remain stable, as we'll discuss. As for your gold, I know better than to question its quality, but I have concerns about the consistency of your supply.
As the owner of nearly half of Rizia's royal mining company, I have a vested interest in keeping gold production consistent.
Perhaps you do, but will you be able to keep Marilla from nationalizing the myths and taking over your mines? President Smolak, please rest assured that we are not promising you an amount of gold we are unable to deliver. However, we have other commodities we can offer instead of, or in addition to gold. Would those be of interest? If the price is right, why not? I'm a flexible man.
With a grin, he held his arm up and bent his wrist nearly all the way backwards. Lorenzo smiled patiently.
I should tell you that Valen has other commodities too, Mr. Escapel. For instance, we're seeking to expand the market for morphine and other pharmaceutical products, not to mention Maricopa's finest tobacco. Our timber industry is also unparalleled in Maricopa. Your nobles might take a particular interest in our wood carvings.
Well, the Queen Mother always spoke highly of Vasic tobacco.
She is right, your mother. A puff of Arkisha and a sip of your wine. I can't think of a more delightful combination. I know shops in these little Rockrovitz quarter that sell quiche under the table. They can't restock it fast enough. You see, Valen is not only an oil country, just as Rizia is not only a gold one. There is plenty we can offer each other.
Is the bilateral migration agreement what it sounds like?
I believe so. We are asking for complete freedom of movement between Valen and Rizia. It is also our wish that Vasics residing in this country enjoy the same rights as native-born residents.
I can extend those rights to the Vasics currently living in Seal, but every citizen of Valen?
Everyone will know, Your Majesty. Otherwise, those in Seal risk becoming isolated from their family and business connections on the mainland. If it were highly regulated, the integration of Vasics into the Rizia workforce could be more of a benefit than a drawback. Precisely, Mr. Esquivel. Rizians can't hold a candle to my people's work ethic. With that said, Mrs. Smolak, are you not worried about a potential loss of skilled workers as Vasics seek higher compensation in Rizia? Of course I've thought about that, but the trade agreement I have already proposed will help level out the economic disparities between our nations.
I'll go with that one. It's, again, a little bit more neutral. It'll take more than a trade deal to repair Valen's damage, Mr. Smolak.
Despite the devastation of our past, we remain a country with plentiful resources, not the least of which is our people. If you don't see our potential, then I feel sorry for you.
Alright, well, I'm interested in hearing more about this anti-terrorism pact. My guess is going to be something similar to, what he did with Swordland, but I'm not sure.
Ah, yes. Your Majesty, Mr. Escabel, how much do you know about the Bluish Freedom Front?
I'm just going to go with the first one. They were founded in protest of Turkey and Seoul's policies in Swordland, and they've been active around the border between your countries. He shook his head.
Well, that may have been how they started, but the threat they pose is not limited to that one small region. And they are not acting alone. Their so-called fight for peace is in reality a mass destabilization effort funded by the West. In fact, one of the BFF's biggest supporters is none other than your lovely sister-in-law.
I have no knowledge what the Kingdom of Rumberg does or doesn't do in Valen.
Well, then perhaps you should ask Her Excellency to fill you in the next time you sit down for tea. President Smolak, I am aware that the BFF has not gone completely inactive since the retirement of Taki and Seoul, and that they may in fact be gathering their strength. But you have not yet made it clear what you want from Rizia. Patience, Mr. Escabel. You may be aware that most Bloods are followers of the Ruist sect called Golkandism.
Let's go with that. Yes, their religious fanaticism makes them even more dangerous.
Their beliefs are shared by the Republic of Terdia, which has been granting sanctuary even to the most notorious of Bluish criminals. My request is simple. All Vesic Bloods and Terdian citizens are to be turned away at the Rizian border.
Mr. President, I can't ban people from my country based on their religion.
The Terdians are a nationality, not a religion. And Vesic Bloods are an ethnic group as distinctly marked in their identification documents.
I mean, that's still pretty racist, so I don't think we can do that.
That may be, Mr. Smolak, but the international community would see this as a religious ban. Where the ban limited to only those with Bluish identification documents, we would have a far easier time implementing it. Surely you understand. What I understand is that Bluish refugees have a fast track to Terdian citizenship. By allowing Terdian passport holders into Rizia, you may as well be opening your doors to the PFF. I do understand your concerns, however. I might be willing to leave Terdia out of our agreement if enough of our other conditions are met.
Or what?
Well, Your Majesty, let's say the Republic of Valen decide to take a more proactive approach to the BFF problem.
Lorenzo nervously adjusted his tie.
If your kingdom promised aid us in that, it would be of course be far more valuable than any form of border control.
Proactive? Problem? I don't like the sound of either of those.
Indeed not, President Smolak. I hope that your so-called solution does not involve retaliatory violence. Nothing so vulgar, Mr. Escabel. It is our long-term goal to drive the insurgents out of their strongholds in the north part of our country. Once that happens, we suspect some will flee south towards Zio. And in that case, we will be most grateful if the Rizian Navy prevented them from reaching their destination.
You're asking a bit too much of my country, President Smolak.
Then I'm happy to discuss our other terms.
Lorenzo took one last glance at his folder, then looked up at us both.
I believe we've covered everything, gentlemen.
Not everything. What about this 3-year timeline?
Well, the timeline is to ensure that your kingdom can be relied upon, Your Majesty. We are looking for a long-term partnership with Rizia. You cannot simply tear up this treaty as soon as you get what you want. So, we are asking for a 3-year probationary period. If all is still well between Vale and Rizia by the end of that time, we will be able to return Seal with full confidence.
When will it end? How can I be sure that 3 years won't turn into 10?
Don't worry, Your Majesty. As long as the terms are met, the handover will proceed as planned.
Lorenzo finished jotting something down on his notepad.
Thank you for your explanations, Mrs. Smolak. This has been very informative. Would you mind waiting in the sitting room while His Majesty and I decide on Rizia's half of the agreement? It will be my pleasure.
Smolak exited the room backwards, bowing as he did so.
Well, quite a lot to think about, Your Majesty. I have the draft documents right here if you're ready.
Yeah, I've got a few more questions, if you please.
Naturally, Your Majesty.
Granting Vazik's full rights in Rizia, do you think that's a good idea?
It is perhaps President Smolak's boldest demand, and it would be a rather extreme leap for Rizia, considering that Vaziks and other migrants do not even have the right to work the same jobs native-born Rizians do. Passing such a monumental decree without the approval of your council or the House of Delegates could prove dangerous. Granting working rights is the furthest you should go, I would think, but other factions may have different opinions.
I'm confused about this trade deal he's asking for. Do we need to import and export exactly the same amount of goods?
Not necessarily, Your Majesty. As a matter of fact, we're in a position to make a very advantageous deal, especially if meeting the President's other demands.
Alright, well, what will be the impact if I enact the bans he's asking for?
That depends, Your Majesty. Tight immigration controls would overjoy international supporters, but refusing Darian's entry into our country would lead to an outcry both internationally and from our existing Darian population. As Darians also fill many low-wage jobs in Rizia, the ban may dent our economy as well. And the ban on blue should not ruffle as many feathers. Though, if the rumours concerning our exports of the BFF are true, we do risk raising the eye of Her Excellency.
I still feel Mr. Smolak is demanding too much. My foreign counselor looked troubled.
You have a significant negotiating edge over Valen. However, President Smolak is still expecting a conciliatory gesture, even if it's only a small symbolic one. If you refuse every single one of the conditions listed here, diplomatic handover of Rizia will be out of the question.
In other words, we'll have to resort to one of those contingency plans we discussed earlier.
I suppose so. I must warn you, those could end up costing us far more dearly than a few trade and border concessions.
Cool. Alright, well, thank you, Mr. Escobar. Let's have a look at the draft.
With pleasure, Your Majesty.
He handed me the treaty amendment draft, and I began going through it. Okay, let's see here. So, amendment to the Zeal Agreement of 1927. The Zeal Agreement is being renegotiated to strengthen the economic, cultural, and political ties between the nations of Valen and Rizia. Valen wants to meet certain new conditions in a new comprehensive bilateral agreement. Cool. Alright, so we have pretty strong negotiating power. Let's see here. So... I mean, oil's not a bad idea. Let's see. Okay, yeah, cool. So yeah, that definitely knocks my negotiating power down a bit. So if I select all of those, it gives you basically no negotiating power. Okay. If I do, like, say, oil and tobacco, let's try that. Yeah, I can go back if I don't like it, so... Let's see, and then... What if I just export wine and small arms? That's pretty good.
Yeah, so gold gives me a huge boost to the negotiating power. And wine and gold, it basically maxes it back out. Not sure if I really want to lose any more budget per churn, but we'll go with that for right now. I'm just going to kind of poke around here a little bit. Let's see what else we got. So, counterinsurgency aid. Valen is asking for Rizia to promise future aid against the Bluish Freedom Front, specifically by sending ships to Strait of Kralek to eliminate the possibility of BFF insurgents fleeing south. Okay, so that maxes it out. Not promising aid doesn't really change anything. Let's just stick with that for the moment. I might come back and change some of this stuff. Let's see. Counterterrorism border control. Valence proposed new measures to prevent Bluish Freedom Front members from crossing the Rizian border. They're calling for dirty and passport holders and those holding Bluish identification documents to be banned from entering Rizia. So ban everybody. That maxes my negotiating power back out again. Alright, let's try banning Bluish people just for the moment. I just want to kind of look at it here. And then, yeah, grant Vezix the equal right to work. Okay. I mean, I'm still pretty high, so let's go back and maybe change a couple things here. Alright, let's see. I'll go ahead and add timber. Leave that as it is. Don't promise aid. Don't implement a ban. And just grant Vezix equal right to work. Okay. I mean, I think that'll be okay. Maybe. I mean, we're still about halfway up on the negotiating power thing, even adding in some extra imports. I think I can probably handle the -1 gold per churn, or -1 budget per churn for the gold. Especially once we get these gas fields up and running and everything. That should be doable, I would think. And then, yeah, just don't add any aid, don't ban anybody, but give them work rights. Yeah, I think that'll work. I'm gonna go with that. We'll see what happens. No, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna hit yes anyway. Okay, wow, whole bunch of things. Interesting, okay. Cool. So, let's see, where am I? Lorenzo noted each decision I made in the margins of a document. When we had finished going through everything, he sat back and raised an eyebrow. Very bold, Your Majesty. I hope Valen will accept it. He asked an aide to call Smolak back into the room. When the President Valen wiped Rosetta crumbs off his mustache as he entered. What a delicious start your people invented. Now, imagine it's made with crust or strudel pastry. But first things first, let's have a look at the treaty. Lorenzo handed him the annotated draft, and he flipped through it eagerly. As he reached the end, his eyes narrowed. I see. I was not aware that King Rizia took me for a simpleton. Let's try to behave like gentlemen, Mr. Smolak. Lashing out won't solve anything. Neither will making a mockery of my fine proposal. You are content to watch us suffer alone in our fight against the Bluish Freedom Front. To me, your unwillingness to cooperate shows that you cannot be trusted to resume governance of Zeal. Yep, that one. I'm not entirely inflexible. Surely there's still a way to find common ground. All is not lost, Your Majesty. There is one further condition which my ministers advise me not to include in the agreement. If you do this for me in addition to meeting the conditions you already agreed upon, I can envision allowing the Zeal handover to proceed. What is this favor, and why did your ministers advise you not to include it?
He is very sensitive, Your Majesty. You see, unlike the British Freedom Front, your Suomi organization has many different heads. But there is one that stands above all others, Ricardus Taurus. Deal with him, and we can restart this conversation. I am afraid I don't understand. Duke Taurus has committed no crime.
Smolak fixes both with a hawk-like stare.
We suspect he is involved in the seal incident. Meanwhile, he has shown nothing but contempt for the Veziks living under his jurisdiction. A country that allows a man like that to remain in power is not a country where my people will be safe.
I do not share my cousin's views. Neither does the majority of Rizia.
You have had every chance to stop him, Your Majesty. It is not enough to simply not support him. He must be stripped of his power. It is my wish that he be arrested and extradited to Valen, where he will learn the true meaning of justice.
How would he be extradited? Any crimes he may have committed would have been in Rizia. I'd like to get him out of the way as well, but we need to be strategic about it. Lorenzo looked askance at me.
Mr. Smolak, I understand your concerns about Duke Taurus, but to turn him over to your country would require a trial and a conviction, followed by lengthy legal proceedings. Well, that will be your problem to solve, Mr. Escabel, not mine.
We need to investigate him first. That alone could take ages.
Even if evidence against Duke Taurus were revealed, we would need to proceed with extreme caution. Your Grand Vizier will try to block this with all his might. I must be leaving soon, King Romus. Will you cooperate with this request or not?
I'll find a way to get you Rico. Just meet your other conditions. Smolak stared at me imperiously for a few seconds, then broke into a wide smile.
Fantastic, Your Majesty. I knew you would come through in the end. We'll leave your cousin out of the official treaty, of course. It'll just be between us. I wish I had time to celebrate, but Rakovitz awaits. The next time you visit us, we'll smoke quiche together. You'll discover what you're missing out on.
Thank you, but I'd rather our relationship remain professional.
That's what the quiche is for, a shared celebration between professionals. But I understand.
Lorenzo rose from his seat.
In aid, we'll show you out when we finish up in here, Mr. Smolak. Thanks again for your time. Thank you, Mr. Escabel, and you, of course, King Romus.
Have a safe trip back, Mr. President.
I will. Valen is not so far away after all.
We accompanied Smolak to the door of the suite. He bowed one last time as an aide ushered him down the hall towards the exit. Lorenzo and I looked at each other for a long couple of moments.
We have quite the task before us, don't we? But I'm confident we'll rise to the challenge.
That bastard has us right where he wants us, but I see no other choice.
We made out fairly well, considering the circumstances.
Lorenzo gathered up the documents that were scattered across the table. Together, we left the suites. Fantastic. Alright, geez, a whole bunch of things just happened there. Looks like we got at least one report, a few newspaper articles. Awesome. But this one's already starting to run a little bit long here, so I think that's a good place to call it for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.